Welcome everyone to another episode of FortiGuardLIVE. Once again, I have one of my favorite person in the world with me, Aamir Lakhani. Aamir, my friend, how are you doing?
One of your favorite persons, man. I feel honored. I am doing really well now. I'm doing even better now after that introduction. I am doing great, man. Keeping busy. Obviously, we're into 2024 now. You can't even call it New Year's, and wow, what a year for cyber already. And I think it's going to be quite a bit of an interesting year.
Definitely. It feels like technology will reach the point where it's hard to say, are we at which point of the curve we are. It feels exponential already. And we're looking at all the advancement in technology. One thing which we have been talking for a long time, deepfakes, seems like it's getting very, very popular as well these days. What is the current landscape from your point of view when we talk about deepfakes, and what do you see out there?
Deepfakes are really interesting, right? I mean, most people kind of think of the deepfakes a little bit like, how the movies do the de-aging technology. When you see like, Arnold Schwarzenegger as a young man in his 20s as a bodybuilder, you can really change the way someone looks. More than that is you can actually like change the person completely. You can replace, a president giving a speech with yourself. You want to be giving a speech in front of hundreds and thousands of people, you can do that. You can change your voices if you want. I can sound like I could call someone and sound exactly like you. Some of the technology is getting so good, it's very, very hard to tell the difference. It used to be, it took a lot of computing power, it took some GPU, it took a little bit of knowledge on how to do this correctly. Or if you were just using off-the-shelf software, you'd have a lot of buffering. It just wouldn't look right. But now, especially with some cloud-based tools, or with the software kind of just being commercialized, I would say, and widely available, anyone can do deepfakes. But essentially what it is it's replacing a voice or a face or a performance, I would say, almost with something else, and something that's emulating that or replacing that.
Yeah, definitely. Also, you also mentioned the requirements. The barrier of entry came down quite a bit. And also, when you think about deepfakes in the past, the majority of deepfakes which we have seen were targeting very popular people because they either needed to have a lot of footage from voice, like podcasts, or also video, like presidential speeches. Public speakers in general were heavily targeted. And gathering all of this information then was the first step. And once you had the information, you were feeding it to the systems, and the machine learning algorithms, they learned how does a specific person talk, what is the accent, how fast someone talks, what kind of breaks does he take in between sentences, how does he use his hands for communicating. So a lot of things to learn from a specific person. But these days I see a lot of individuals like you and myself, we can just record ourselves in half an hour or even less. Sometimes it just needs 3 minutes, and upload it to a specific online platform. And the algorithms become quite sophisticated and produce some very legitimate outputs.
Yeah, absolutely. I have actually used deepfakes on myself. I've used them for training purposes. I've actually like created training videos, and I was like, man, I don't really want to narrate this whole thing, so I'll write down a transcript and let the deepfake take over. And it does sound pretty realistic. Now, of course, it's my voice, it's how I would talk, so I could tell that it's not me. But I don't know. Like, I think if you knew me really well, you could probably tell it's not me. But it sounds good. It sounds good enough. And I've done my training that way sometimes. And then I start thinking, why do I have to sound like me? There's a lot of better sounds than people that sound like me. And you can actually buy like voices. If I wanted to be malicious, I could like take your voice. I could take Morgan Freeman's voice, someone like that, and have him do the training. Why not? Why not learn cybersecurity from Morgan Freeman or anyone you want? Traditionally, it's been easier to do deepfake with voice, just because there's a lot less moving parts, obviously, a lot less GPUs required, a lot less processing power required. And I think that's why you see a lot of cloud platforms that offer that service, usually for a fee, usually for like how many minutes you're recording, something like that. But if you do have enough computing power, and it doesn't take as much as people think it does, if you've done any type of crypto mining, you probably have the GPUs already to do that. But if you have that computing power, you can probably go ahead and do some pretty nice deepfake videos as well on your own.
Yeah, and there's some excellent use cases as well where it's beneficial to all of us. Like, for example, in training, if I want to do a proper training and use my own voice, but I'm not fluent in specific languages, I can use the same transcript and just tell it, okay, now in Italian, please, now in Polish, please, now in Spanish, please, all languages which I'm not capable of. And it keeps a specific consistency with the same voice as I have, but just changes the language, which I think overall deepfakes, like a lot of technologies we always talk about, especially in cybersecurity, it's a double-edged sword. It's a nice tool, and it really depends on the motivation of the people who uses them. We can use them for the good, like as I just mentioned, or as what you see these days very often as well, people abusing the technology with malicious intentions and causing a lot of harms. And when we think about that scenario, what do you see right now happening, and where do you see the threat in the next 12 months going with deepfake technologies?
Well, the scary part with deepfake technology is some of the things we've seen in Hollywood, right? And some of this stuff that isn't real right now is probably not too far off from being real. I saw like some TV show the other day, and obviously this was all fake, but I think this is not too far from being real, where they basically said, guy is testifying and they have him on stand. They're like, oh, look, there's a video of you like being drunk and basically drinking a lot, and then you go drive a car. And he's like, I never did that. That's a deep fake, and we could definitely see things like that. And is a jury going to really understand that? If that was real life, would a jury understand that? We've seen, and at least in the hacker forums, attackers talk about, hey, if you want to do phishing now, follow your phishing attack and call the person with a deepfake voice. So not only send the person an email saying, I'm your CEO, but then call that person as the CEO with a voice, and maybe the phishing attack, will be more successful, right, that way. And that's with a voice. Of course, a picture goes a lot longer. Video is much more believable. So imagine if there was a deep fake and someone gets on a video conference saying, you know what, I'm your CEO. I sent you an email. Like, this is really me. Please go ahead and wire this money to this foreign bank account. It would be very, very believable. Now, like I've heard in forums, like some of these attacks are occurring, but I think on a really minor level. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing attackers try and use this technology more and more. I really think we would probably start seeing the deepfake voice side of it more, just because it's more attainable. To do the video, they would have to obviously get on your company's webinar or video conference. That could be a little difficult, and then get the right person to schedule that. But who knows? It could happen. It could happen with, a video call like FaceTime or WhatsApp video call or something like that. I could definitely see attackers attempting to try that this year.
Yeah, it's definitely the progression. So just the voice thing you mentioned, it's a perfect example, because I'm here in Singapore. I live in Singapore, and this specific case you just mentioned happened in the last couple of days here, and it was about millions which were being falsely transferred, because, as you just mentioned, you make up a case, and then to emphasize your statement, you even send a voice message, and you have the more components together, which builds a lot of trust, the more likely you will succeed. And I think, like with many different technologies, we see a progression over time. So as you just said, we have voice, and now video. It's just a matter of time until we incorporate that as well, because attackers, they always think ahead of the curve. And naturally, when we hear about these kind of attacks, the first thing we might think from a defensive point of view is, okay, why not we need video verifying? We call, instead of just calling someone by phone, we take a video call and have confirmation. So attackers are probably anticipating that and planning for that as well. And it's always this cat and mouse game, and technology will make this easier to do in the future, of course, the more technology evolves. And it's definitely very scary to see. And not just for individuals, but also when we talk misinformation, the election time will come up in the US as well. So a lot of different threats out there.
Yeah, so there's this whole thing that we call, misinformation campaigns. There's a whole philosophy around that, and I think I wouldn't be surprised. We've seen misinformation campaigns that have happened in many elections. People essentially the false news narrative that we've been hearing for a while. Well, now if you have false news that has proof on it, right? And we've seen people at least in conferences and stuff have taken things of candidates and put words in their mouths that they haven't really said. You could definitely get people's passion kind of stimulated. When you do that, I'm sure you can get a lot of people angry, and I wouldn't doubt that we will see deep fakes. And I think there are some already that people have talked about it, but I think there'll be a lot more. There'll be a lot more of them just all around as as the U.S. elections get closer and closer. It's a pretty competitive environment, and so I don't expect anything less than a lot of deep fakes coupled with fake news.
Yeah, and also there needs to be a way to verify what was actually be said or not. So I think similar technologies as we use in cyber already with hashes and make sure the integrity is checked, it's just a matter of time until it's rolled out on a wider scope.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about how do you identify AI generated content, not only for deep fakes, but for AI images, for other things as well. And there's talks about doing some sort of watermark. There's been a lot of conversations from a lot of the big technology companies that are out there. But you're absolutely right. Deep fakes can definitely be very harmful. They can cause harassment issues. They can cause abuse issues as well, right? So it can be put into very dangerous hands, and I think we do need some sort of verification. We do need some sort of way of knowing what I'm looking at, is it real or not? And we do have technologies out there. We do have strategies out there that we've used in the past, such as hashing and verification and a PGP, public key infrastructure, to verify what is something real on the other end or not. I think some of that technology, some of those strategies can be adapted to new technologies, and I think that's what we're seeing. Hopefully it's not up to the end user to verify that. I'm hoping that wherever you're watching that platform, whether it's a news site, whether it's a social media site, that they're verifying it, that they've kind of opted in and said hey, there's 3 entities that are well accepted, and these 3 entities have said that this video is real. That would be my hope.
Yeah, it seems a little bit similar, like certificates in browsers, etc. Because if you leave everything for the end user, it's not going to work out. Let's be honest.
Exactly. I don't expect any end user to really check the certificate chain of anything, and I don't expect people to check whether their videos are deepfake or not. And especially, as you can imagine, if they get carried on, if it's something that's very explosive, I would say, in content, then they're going to get carried on in the discussions and wanting to share that. It's human nature, so you want to make sure that the platform that's hosting that hopefully has some way of letting the user know where they're getting their verification from.
Aamir, thanks so much for always sharing your insights. Always love to have you here. And yeah, we have a lot of other interesting conversations coming up, but I think for now it's a good time to wrap up this specific topic. Maybe we come back in a year from now and see what's happened over these last 12 months, because as always with technology,
I think I'm going to come back, talk about deepfakes. I'm going to sit on that really nice patio of yours, you seem like you're on the 20th floor, in the clouds there. So that's where we'll talk about deepfakes next, man.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks everyone for listening in. This was another episode of FortiGuard Live. We hear you next time. Bye-bye.